Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Shannon Gorton and I am the creatrix at Shannon's Magical Makings. And you can find me on Facebook at Magical Makings Workshop. So if you follow me on my social media, you know that I've been working on a really cute tag, and I've expanded upon this project a couple of times. So it initially started out showing people how to take pages from a book and antique them and then create word embellishments, and that's the previous video. And in this video I'm going to show you what I've done, and I've gone ahead and for this project I used Lavinia stamps and Ranger distressed ink. So look at how beautiful this turned out. It's just a regular page that I took from a discarded book from the library, and I antiqued it up and crinkled it, stamped it, and it turned out really nice. And then I decided I wanted to go another layer, and then I did it with the fairies and the vines. This project I also custom hand dyed my seam binding ribbon to match the color that I chose for the theme of this project. Like I said before, initially it started out a couple of tags, and it got so big that I decided it was just more than a tag. So I decided I was going to make a cute little tiny envelope, and I put little half pearls on there, and I open it up, and it's very cute. It has my own design paper inside. So I went ahead and I took some of the ink that I used for the project, and it's a beautiful warm breeze, and it complemented everything very nicely. So I antiqued the ribbon, the lace, and then I went ahead and put some of the blue ink on that as well, and then I stuck in some of the burlap, and I haven't glued that down yet. I just thought it was so cute to have the little pixie dust in the little bottle with a beautiful clay rose. So it started out as a tag or two, has now expanded to a beautiful project, and I'm thinking I'm just gonna go ahead and have this be the cover for my creative gratitude journal. So today I wanted to share with you how to go about rolling the paper, making it the antique look that I have here. It pretty much, when you use the textbook paper or the book paper, it does it by itself. So let's see. Basically, it's just a discarded book. I just picked up a discarded book from the library and randomly tear out pages as I need them. And it helps when you tear the books out that the edge is rough. Now, if you have paper that you want to use, whether it's your own design or somebody else's design, for example, I've used the technique that I showed in antiquing the paper and then scanning it in on my computer. And it's nice to have that as well. But the paper is thicker. It's not the same weight, as you can hear it. It's much lighter, so it's a bit different to do this. Now you can make the distressed edging and the rolling a couple of different ways for this project. So I have a distressing tool. It's really sharp, and you can do that to tear your pages. And let's see, basically you just take your paper and you just kind of tear it along to give it your distress look like this, okay? Or you can actually tear it yourself, and I like to make it a little bit catawampus, if you will, just kind of not make it all defined. And that's what I did with this part of the project here before I inked it in that warm breeze color. So the other thing that you can do is you can really rough up the edges if you want. This is a tool from my Cricut, and it works okay on here. This is what I used before, and it gave me the kind of rough edge here and there, just kind of randomly wherever I wanted it to go. And if you're going to have it antique looking and you want to do the crinkling of the paper, I recommend that you coat this in whatever color you want for your background. For this one, I used either the brushed corduroy or the potting soil. And then I took and stamped the flowers using the ground espresso. And then I have a little paintbrush that I put into the stamp pad and just like painted each one of them. It's a little time consuming, but as you can see, it's a beautiful effect. And then you antique the edges. And in antiquing the edges, getting them soft, they would curl even more and just start coming apart. And this is actually how this came out of the book. So we can try this way and just like tearing it in. Of course, you're gonna wanna, what I like to do is I actually prefer to have all of my edges, if you will, done first, because then when I tear it and I do it again, I've got that distressed look again, and it goes another level. And just kind of gouge into it wherever you think you would want to have that go. The little tears. The other way that you can do it is you can actually tear your paper so that you've got the revealed rough edge, and that'll absorb the ink very nicely. And it all depends on how much you want to do. Now, remember we had the example. Did you see how I wiggled it across and it made it really rough? I'll do that again on this one. You start it and then you just kind of back and forth, and it moves it out very nicely. Then you can go back in and rough it up if you want and make the edges curl. Now watch what happens as I'm as I'm blending the ink in. They're going to naturally start to fold. I've been trying to get a migraine to go away. It's been raining since last night, and it doesn't feel so good on my head. I have sensitivities to the weather pressure. So you can see how it's already started to curl right here. So let's do another piece. I'm looking to go this way. And then I'll turn it around and use the other side. It's a little bit different. Okay. And then if I turn it over, this is, like I said, I printed this out, scanned it in. It's going to give me a different effect. Because it's revealing more of this. And when you pull the paper apart, that's when you get the curling. The moisture in the ink causes it to curl. And of course, when it's thin and the moisture comes in, no, that's a basic way to get a vintage edge onto your project. Let's see. Now I like how this one tore out. This one tore out very nicely, and gonna mess it all over. So you can see it's starting to curl. If you were going to do a card base, I would recommend going in and roughing this up with this kind of a tool, or tearing it yourself. I like tearing because once you see that you're starting to pull away the fibers of the paper, it doesn't have to be even, because it looks more authentic vintage when it's not even bits and pieces. So again, take your blending tool and then pop it in your ink pad. And you can see that it starts to curl on its own by using the blending tool. I use a circular motion. And I'm not too gentle with it because I do want it to start curling up and looking aged and antiqued. And what does this is the thin part of the paper starts to curl. And once we have that, you can actually go a step further and crinkle it up. And then this is a little bit different because it's the cardstock. Look at that. Depending upon the level of the vintage look that you want to go. So that crinkles it up even more. And you can go back in. Now if it's too much, you can always tear some off and try again, or do something different that way. Another way to do this, if your paper's too thick or too stiff, is you can go in and use your mister and mist that up. Mist the paper, because if you mist the paper, it softens the fibers in the paper and it will have the same effect. Also, using a wet chamois on your work surface and pressing that down, and there will also start to loosen up those fibers as well. So I have my mister over here. And I mix that into the paper. You can use a paintbrush, or you can use one of your tools to help you along if you want to start to roll the paper even more. So once it's wet, it'll dry with the roll. And I do like to have, for the vintage look, I like to have it inked up really well. And I can even blend some of that in because we're going to start to have the fibers breaking down even more, which will help the folding of the paper because it's thinning out the paper at different levels. So then if I wanted to curl this up even more, this time I'll use the paintbrush and I'll roll it around the paper. And it tears, and that's okay, because when it's dry, you can go back in and add more of the antiquing from the potting soil. Or if you wanted to go even darker, the ground espresso. And you see how this is drying like this. So you control how much of a curl you want. I've seen some really great examples of techniques, and so let's see. What we can do is set this aside so it can dry for a bit, and then I'm just going to tear this one. Okay, there's some really great techniques to use to do this. So we're gonna ink this up. I like to do both sides of the paper. If it's not a double-sided pattern paper, like from Prima or from Stamperia or a craft box, you're gonna probably want to do both sides if it's not a double-sided pattern paper, so that when you're working with it, you don't have the white showing through, especially if you're going for that vintage or that antique look. So you see how it's starting to roll. I'm gonna give it just a little bit of spritz, like that. And I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna gently, because it's wet, kind of roll it open. And you can tear it and form it yourself like you do with the flowers, however you want it to start forming. And you could tear it out a little bit more and make it a little more distressed looking. You can roll it after it dries. Another technique that some people use is that way it looks like it's peeking through whatever can be underneath here, like this effect. So you're seeing another level, and of course you'd want to finish it out, you know, whatever stain you're using, whether it's antique or tea dye. You want to make sure that most of those edges are gone. Now, sometimes I like to use a darker color when I'm distressing things and making them look old, because not everything is like the same brown. You can see on here, when I did the crinkling of the paper, the wrinkles absorbed the stain. And it's more concentrated in that specific area. And I thought that was a really cool discovery on my part. Okay, so we have that, and let's see what else. I know I went through it really quickly. I meant to get on this morning, but my head's just like being really crazy because of the rain. Okay, so this one's drying out, and you see how it's coming in. It's staying like that. I like to use also the acrylic gel medium. Using the acrylic gel medium gives it a nice glossy effect. You can also use the Nuvo Sparkle Drops. So people are going to start working on holiday cards, whether it's Christmas or Yule. So I have a couple of different brushes here, and then the Nuvo drops. They come in different colors and really nice sparkle. And then this I got from the craft box from Anna Herson, and this is just the acrylic gel medium. And I like using this stuff because it goes on a little glossy, and it gives it a little bit of a glossy coat on there, and it looks real nice, more finished look, if you will. So I'll put some of that on there. I use this on when I make my flowers. I put it on the petals. Plus, it dries. When it dries, it'll take more of the shape that you've shaped it with. And this is another technique that I learned. You can use this medium to help shape your paper as well. I use it for my paper flowers when I'm creating my paper flowers, because it helps to shape the petals of the flowers. And I discovered that quite by accident, but it worked really well. I have to get under there and give it more of a, there we go. It's basically you're reforming the paper, and however it curls up is how it's gonna stay for you. It can be a long process, it can be a quick process. depending upon your project. It can be, quick if you're making a handful of cards, or if you are making a commissioned project for a client, or other bespoke type of gift. You're gonna want to make sure that you've blended that in. I just like the way that looks. It's real nice when it's finished. That gloss adds another depth of color to the ink and the stamp that's there. Okay, so that's that piece. And the other piece is the putting on the Nouveau drops. I like to do the Nouveau drops because they're sparkly and they're real pretty, and it adds another layer. Now you can use any color you would like, but you can enhance a certain area if you wanted to, and give it just a little bit of sparkle and shine. And I'll show you. You use the brush. Look how that sparkles. Let's see if you can see that. It's real pretty. Let's see. There we go. I like that because it's magical, especially if you're going to go for the holidays. And you can use as much or as little as you would like. Look at how pretty that is. That's lovely. Put a little bit more down here. So we have those two pieces. So you can go a lot and open it up so you can reveal something underneath. You can go a little bit and just do around the edges. You can add a level and add the sparkle of the Nouveau drops. You can see how pretty that is. How it shines and sparkles. So again, in reviewing what we've done, you just take your paper and I can show you I can get some Prima paper. I have some Prima lavender paper. I use a Precision paper trimmer. I've had this for 2 years and I've never had to change the blade. It's amazing. I love my paper trimmer. Okay, this is from the Prima Lavender collection. I just love this paper. It's so pretty. So let's say we wanted to make a card. And we'll try the technique that I showed you using the Prima paper. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and scoot that over. Ink up my blending tool. I'm going to ink the edges and cheek them up a little bit. Flip it over into the other side. Okay. And then makes such a mess. And the other thing, I was going through getting some of the components for the gratitude journal kit ready for another order. and I had a craft avalanche. Oh my gosh, I had just a bunch of beads and papers and charms and buttons. It just all over, and that was funny. It made me laugh and made me giggle. All right, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to use the distressing tool and make a mess of my paper. If you dig it in, it'll give it more like rips and tears. Right? Just kind of random, so it doesn't look like it's new paper. Corners tend to get a little frayed, right? From the wear and tear. Okay. So we've got that, and then I'll go ahead and ink it up again. It makes a mess, but it looks so lovely when it's all done, when it's all vintage looking. Okay. So now that looks pretty good. I like how that looks. So this, I'm going to tear it. So what I'm doing is I'm just tearing this down. Scoot that over. And this is the piece that has the real pretty Nuvo drops on it. So it's still wet, so I want to be careful not to get that too junked up, because it looks nice the way that sparkles in. And see how I'm rolling that over? It's tearing it even more. Kind of like this. Almost looks like a butterfly wings. I also like to use the black soot to come in and do the outer edges when I'm using a brown. Just really finishes it off very nicely. So let me grab that real quick. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain. It's coming down. Black soot. My fingers get so covered. I just go, this one is just lightly around the edges. Some people like that extra, and some people don't. I think it kind of finishes it off nicely. It's a little bit white on that one, so I'll go back and take that up a little bit. See how it gave it another depth of color of antiquing, and I'm going to leave this alone because I like how this sparkles. If I wanted to go in just a little bit right here, just a little bit. Okay, I see that there's a glob of it. Gel medium right there. It's fine. Okay. And I'm going to do the same here. Just to really deepen that, because I like how that looks against those roses. So pretty. So, I'm not ready for the holiday cards myself. I put it off just because we're just in September. But I'm not sure how many of you get started on your cards early. Do you finish them before December? Planning ahead. That's awesome. So, I like the way that looks here. Now if I was gonna do this, which one's gonna go? This one's good. So I'm gonna use a piece of my own designer paper that I created. I just love how it turned out. It's real pretty. And I will go ahead and make it so that it's going to be antique as well. That will be a nice compliment to what's already there. Just distress it up a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, that's lovely. And then we can totally add it as ribbon and lace. That's really pretty. I like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and prep the cardstock. It's handy. I like using an old cell phone cover to put my ink pad in. And then like I have an extra little foam piece right here, a blender. But then I just set it in here and it's like totally ready to go. I saw a similar tip on another artist and it looked great. So I'll go in real quick. Okay, my foam pad is not happy. So let's start a new one. There we go. I thought it was a paper. I'm like, this one's not distressed yet. Go around and get that going. Okay, so then got that. Let's see, looks nice. I like how that looks. Maybe distress the corners a little bit more. And let's do that with the good. My hands get such a mess. So depending upon what type of color you're going with, you can always custom dye your ribbon or your lace. You can also change it up and antique the lace. And I've done that and it turns out quite lovely. I'll show you a quick trick on how I do that. So I have some pieces of the ribbon that complements the lavender. I dyed that, and I used the milled lavender from Tim Holtz, the re-inker. And I actually just use a little bowl, and I get a white binding, seam binding, wet, crinkle it all up, and then I put a couple drops in there and just kind of work it all in, and then I let it dry, and then I leave it all crinkled up because I like how it looks crinkly. For the ribbon, I found a pretty cool trick that worked really well for me. So I took my ink pad and my blending tool, and I actually just kind of like rubbed it in. Get your fingers dirty, and that way it wasn't like the same all the way through. It made it different and not all the same color, so it looked like it was indeed antiqued out. So you can do it that way too. Kind of stretch it in. I don't mind getting dirty. All inky. Okay. See, there you go. It's antiqued, huh? Looks great. So I don't... I do like having that peeking out through here like this. It's real pretty, and I need other embellishments as well. So that's what I have for you guys today. It's a little unfinished, but my head is getting the best of me right now. So thanks for checking out my video. Be sure to like, follow, and share on my social media. All the links are posted on my channel. And be sure to check in to Shannon's Magical Makings at Facebook. And that's Magical Makings Workshop. Take care. Bye.